the Agents of Fandom podcast. It's time for us to talk The Batman, one of the most anticipated movies of 2022. And it's finally March. March snuck up on me real quick. And later on in the show, we are going to be joined by our friend Ethan Simi from 15 Minutes of Marvel. But before then, I have with me, of course, my co-host Garrett Blaney. How's it going, Garrett?
It's going good. We finally made it into March, something that we over at the Agents of Fandom have unofficially dubbed the March of the Nights. And we got a pretty cool graphic.
Moon Knight.
Yeah.
We got some Batman, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, we got a pretty cool graphic print for sale on our website as well, detailing the artistry that our incredible producer Ruben has displayed. So it's also on our Twitter if you'd like to download it as a phone wallpaper. Go check that out.
We got a lot of stuff popping right now, both on our website, agentsoffandom.com, and our Twitter at agentsfandom. Coming up today on our website, agentsoffandom.com, guest writer Elijah Boxhill, Optical Cinema, has his spoiler-free review on the Batman, so you can check that out. And on our Twitter, at agentsfandom, we have Marvel madness going on right now. Content creators throughout the industry drafted teams of Avengers-style groups where they're competing head-to-head to fight against each other, and it's a lot of fun. You get to vote on Twitter. I have a matchup right now that's going pretty well against our friends, the Screen Sisters. Pour one out for Garrett. Pour one out for Ethan, who's coming on later. They did not advance to the second round. I know Garrett's having a tough time with this one.
Yeah, this one hurts because it's definitely not that I had the worst team. It is that I had the less popular team, the less lobbied for team, and possibly the less well-known team. Definitely the more evil team, though. And yeah, I think my team had the power to pretty much beat any other team, and so it's a hard pill to swallow to get knocked out in the first round due to the popular vote of them having the number one pick of Wanda Maximoff. So yeah,
it's tough, but Agents of Fandom fans, fear not, you still have myself and Ruben in the bracket to help push along, so make sure you head over to our Twitter and vote. If you're watching this on YouTube, help us combat that YouTube algorithm. It's truly, I know it's kind of annoying when we lobby for likes, but it's truly the only way to get recognized on YouTube. It doesn't matter how many friends we have, doesn't matter if we think our content's great, if you think our content's great, we need the likes, we need the comments, we need people to subscribe so that the YouTube algorithm bumps us up and people can start seeing this content.
Yeah, I'd comment on it myself, but that would look a little bit weird. So
I have the odd time.
I'll make a couple, burner YouTube accounts. I don't care.
Yeah, there we go. Also, head over to any of our socials at Agents Fandom, Twitter, like we talked about, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us, Agents of Fandom. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to give it a 5-star rating, write us a nice review, and tell your friends about it. We switched platforms, and everybody lost their subscription, so we got to make sure that people don't miss out on what they're looking to receive from the Agents of Fandom. One more thing coming today before we start talking about the Batman. Later today, we are going to be interviewing Josiah Young of Raising Dion himself. So that's going to be a lot of fun, from the hit show from Netflix, executive produced by Michael B. Jordan. But without further ado, and it's the time you've all been waiting for. We're ready to talk the Batman. And we are joined now by, I don't even want to say special guest. You're not even special anymore, man. You're just basically one of the Agents of Fandom now. We are joined by Ethan Simi from 15 Minutes of Marvel. How's it going, Ethan?
Dude, I am so honored to be here. And the fact that you included me in this lovely, lovely family means the world to me. I'm almost in tears. TJ.
We are beyond grateful to have gotten to know you through this process and have you on and continue to have you on in the future. And yeah, we didn't really think there was anyone more suited to review the Batman with us.
Thank you. I can't wait to get into it.
We're going to have some fun. So before we talk the specifics, let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts for maybe just the odd person who hasn't seen it yet, and they're tuning into this pod even though they haven't gone to the movie theater yet. So spoiler-free thoughts. Ethan, let's start with you. What did you think?
Spoiler-free thoughts, man. You're just gonna toss me right into the fire here.
Right into the lion's den ASAP.
Yeah, right out of the gate. Okay, I love it. So I was able to see the Batman on Tuesday night. It is now Thursday when we are recording this. So I am almost 48 hours removed. I have tickets to go see it again on Saturday morning. So that's my spoiler-free review right there. I've already got tickets to go see it again. I think it is gritty, it is grungy, it is visceral. It is something unlike we've seen, not just in Batman, but I feel like in any other true comic book movie. We were not focused on the characters. We were focused on the storyline. We were curious about where these 3 hours would take us. I think Michael Giacchino's score is phenomenal, like not to be understated in the slightest. If you're giving out like best supporting actor, goes to the score. Like, I hate to say it, but without that score, this movie is not as good as it is. I think it has some of the coolest shots cinematography wise in not just a comic book movie, but it was damn impressive from a film standpoint. Some of the focal length changes, some of the minute details that give us the tone of the movie. So my spoiler-free review is I love this movie and I can't wait to go see it again. I think it's incredibly unique, and I think it is going to age like a fine wine. The more you think about it, the more you are going to enjoy it.
Yep, I agree with many of your points there. What did you think, Garrett?
I also agree with many of the points. I think, obviously the score was incredible. The score had like my hairs on my arm sticking up at several points in time throughout the movie. I looked over at my girlfriend and I was like, this score might be one of the best. And she was like, yeah, I agree. And then to your point, the cinematography, there was some iconic shots that, no spoiler because this is in the trailer, but when he drives the Batmobile out of that like cloud of flames, that is incredible. And then he walks up to Penguin's car. That is so cool. There's a lot of it that I really, really, really loved, but there was some stuff that I didn't love, and I didn't love it a lot. So that detracted more from the movie than I thought it was going to. I liked it a lot, but I really went in thinking that I was going to like it more. Nolan's trilogy is still above it for me. I'll say it has some of the best like Batman fighting action in any movie. I felt like I was playing, Arkham City. The way he breaks people's arms and he's just a brawler, brutal. There's a lot of aspects that I really love. So I'll wait to kind of dive more into those when we get into spoilers. But yeah, it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it was a fantastic movie, and I have it after one viewing. I have it behind The Dark Knight for me, but I still absolutely loved it. And what I agree with about both of you said is there's certain points. Ethan, I like how you said it was kind of like an origin, but at the same time it wasn't, because it was focused on the plot and not the characters. And we saw they did such a great job of showing the character growth while emphasizing the plot. And it had big Batman Begins vibes in the movie. But where this differed is in Batman Begins, you see like, oh, Bruce went away for X period of time, and so you can expect Y character growth from this time he was gone and when he did these things. In this, you just see the character growth and mistakes being made and positive things being done and how he learns from that as he goes. And so I do think that this is going to age like fine wine as well. I think once we get a sequel and some spin-off series and probably a third one, that's when we're really going to go back to this and appreciate it even more, because it also gave me big Spider-Man Homecoming vibes, where people saw Spider-Man Homecoming and they were like, I have issues with this, and this about Spider-Man. And then by the time we get No Way Home, we realize like, oh no, he was still growing into that. And I felt similarly about a lot of things in this movie. What did you guys think of specifically Robert Pattinson as Batman?
Can I just say, I just want to say right out of the gate, I am so appreciative to be talking about the Batman with you guys, but I'm not like a Batman aficionado. I have some Batman comics, and I love the I believe it's the Killer Joker like run, the kind of the trilogy run that has recently come out. I think is really fun, but by no means am I like diehard Batman. So I think it's interesting to me to see this movie because real quick before I talk about Robert Pattinson, because what I feel like a lot of people have been comparing it, and what I do as well. This is essentially as close to David Fincher directing a superhero movie as we're going to get. I mean, you talk about the likes of Prisoners, Zodiac, even Seven with this kind of like detective grime story going for it. And I think that is going to be the biggest carryover to encourage people to go see this movie. Because if you're not a comic book fan, if you're bummed out or burned out on Batman, but there's hope that you get to sit through a really good 3-hour detective story and a detective novel shot like David Fincher shoots, and pretty dark moments here and there, I think is a very exciting thing. And I think it's going to traverse a lot of box office dollars essentially and get a lot of people in. Robert Pattinson as the Batman, I feel like was divisive. Like when it was cast, I feel like, I mean, this was originally supposed to be Ben Affleck. They put the movie on hold for a couple years. Finally got Robert Pattinson. It's been like 5 years in the making. I'm a Robert Pattinson guy. I like him. I think he's very good. I think he makes incredible cinema. I think he is sublime in The Lighthouse. If you haven't seen The Lighthouse, that is what you should go see to see Robert Pattinson's acting chops as the Batman. I like him. I thought he was good. I thought he was very interior. And again, it's different than Christian Bale. It's different than different renditions that we've seen on screen. But I liked the fact that he was so dark and broody, especially when it comes to eye makeup. Like we got to see him have eye makeup. And I thought that was a really cool aspect to this new rendition. And I liked his voice. I got to be honest. I don't know how you guys felt about the voice, but I was here for it because I was getting kind of sick of listening to Christian Bale hawk up a fur ball every time he talked. Sorry.
I agree with you there. And one part that I found funny is I saw like a bunch of posts that saying like people saying like, hey, if you're worried about Robert Pattinson as the Batman, you clearly haven't seen anything since his days in Twilight, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I saw a lot of Edward Cullen in this Bruce Wayne. There was a lot of like awkward, broody, emotional, I'm upset and I can't talk about my feelings going on there. And I don't even mean that as a bad thing. Like I'm not even saying that like as a negative, but I felt like there was a lot of that involved. What do you think, Garrett?
Yeah, his Bruce didn't do it for me, and I'm willing to accept the fact that this is a young Batman, a growing, learning Batman, who is deciding, am I Bruce, am I Batman, am I both, what's going on, what's my identity? He's in this kind of crisis, and I'm okay with him growing a better Bruce self in the future. But if he I don't know, if the Bruce Wayne aspect doesn't improve in the future, it's gonna be a problem for me, because he was like creepy, awkward at points. Like I even said to TJ, I think an argument could be made that like people in Gotham who have never really seen Bruce Wayne before and now have seen him out and around could be like, oh, like, he might be on the spectrum a little bit. He's like that. He like doesn't have any personality at all. He was just there, if that makes sense.
I think TJ, you mentioned earlier, like this could be the first in a trilogy. We know that the producer has said we'll get a second one in less than 5 years. Obviously, hopefully that's the case. I think it's interesting to look at it from that perspective. Again, I'm with you, Garrett. I don't think the Bruce Wayne delivered necessarily on the level that a Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne. I don't think we're ever going to see that again. I think he was the epitome of that, especially when you talk about The Dark Knight Rises. I think portrays that exceptionally well. But I think if you look at it in the context of we're probably getting 6 more hours of Batman over the next 7 years, maybe.
Well, and spinoffs and spinoff shows
and spinoffs. Like we're going to have some serious growth. And if we started with a Bruce Wayne that was appeasing what everybody wanted from a Bruce Wayne, there's nowhere to go. There's no maturing that needs to happen. So I think it's important also to view it in that light.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm not ready to like sound the alarm, raise the flags yet, but like I definitely need to see an improvement on it in the future, like because it was like, I don't know,
and that's
it was
why
bad,
I got,
in my opinion.
and that's why I got Spider-Man Homecoming vibes, because it was very much like there's still some things missing from this character. He's not there yet. And what his Bruce did remind me of was Bale's in Batman Begins before he went out and did his 5 years away, everybody, or 7 years, whatever it was, everyone thinking he's dead. When he's in that courtroom hiding his gun and he's just like a stiff, angry, that's very similar to what we saw from Robert Pattinson's in this one. And they mentioned in this one how it was Alfred who taught him how to fight. And I think they kind of implied like he's been here the whole time. He hasn't gone anywhere. And because of that made me think like, yeah, he's still in his figuring out his emotions phase. This is still an emotional Batman. And we see that in a lot of his punches. And he hasn't figured out that Bruce yet. He hasn't figured out that alter ego yet. And they mentioned lots in the movie about how his mask, that's his real life, and stuff like that. And that was a very similar parallel to Batman Begins as well. So I do think that'll come. That's why I got those Homecoming vibes. One more thing I want to touch on before we get, actually, no, this really leads us into the Riddler, which is what I want to talk about next anyways. When we were doing our Batman primer with Dr. Travis Langley, author of Batman and Psychology, Dark and Stormy Night, we had talked about the vibes we were getting from the Riddler, and obviously there was lots of Zodiac talk, but I was saying in the trailers, I was getting some Saw vibes. I was getting some Jigsaw vibes.
Yeah.
And that seemed to kind of materialize in the movie. Did you guys get those same feelings when you were watching?
Dude, when it was revealed that the Riddler put like a fucking hamster cage on the chick's face, I was like, okay, that's Saw. We're living in Saw, and this is just the game to the Riddler. I have a lot more thoughts on Riddler, but Garrett, go ahead, man. I want to hear what you say.
Yeah, I definitely, some of the like traps and stuff that and the like the bomb on Coulson, the DA, like it was pretty gnarly. And I didn't expect it. And I really, really enjoyed the Riddler throughout until kind of the end. I was lost a little bit. I was kind of like, and even my girlfriend said this to me after, and I'm starting to feel this way more as I marinate on it. I liked him way more coming out of the theater, but I think it was like at the end, it was like turned up to like 15. I think it could have been, it was cool at 12, if that makes sense. It got a little bit much for me at the end.
TJ, are we doing spoilers? Can I ask a direct spoilery question?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So Garrett, you say that. I'm very curious. And I'm just, I'm keeping things spicy here. I'm keeping the conversation hot. His monologue in Arkham, when he gets Batman to Arkham and basically tells him, "You've been my accomplice. We've done this together." And then he kind of freaks out. He says, like, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to have fun. We were supposed to watch it together. Is that the monologue for you where you're like, whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit, Riddler? What are we doing?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. See, that's where he lost me.
It worked better for me. I loved the turn up. I thought like, wow, he's really, really, really messed up. Like he enjoys being the Riddler. This is how he kind of gets off, and he gets to be who he is under that Riddler mask. But when he is not under that mask, and when things do not go according to what he wants, because we've seen for 2.5 hours everything going to the way that he wants, Batman brings the rat to the light. He solves all of these puzzles and essentially is his accomplice. He freaks, and especially we get that kind of what felt like it should have been a post-credit scene towards the end, right? With him and another person we're gonna get into. I like the fact that he is so consumed with his own disappointment about his own viewpoints. I think that works really well for me. So I think that's something that this movie does very interestingly. People are going to be very divided on how deep these people got into these characters.
No, I love your points. To me, he just kind of came off like all of a sudden he was like a 6-year-old. He was like, he became like a child to me. And he was like idolizing Batman, like obsessing.
I liked that.
TJ
I
looks
honestly
interested.
really like that, because to me, like, that from a psychology standpoint, to me that makes sense for the character, for him to be the Riddler. Like, you can't be this obsessive with riddles and games without having that childlike aspect of your brain like not being developed, and like there being some things missing there. And obviously his thing was focused on, I didn't have a childhood, I was an orphan, and my orphan wasn't like Bruce Wayne being an orphan. There were rats eating at my fingertips, and it sucked. It was hell. Now you guys are going to come join me in hell, and this is what it's like. And so I liked that childlike aspect, because that to me was like, he still is a kid. He has a genius, and his genius is the games and the mastermind behind that. But he also has some big time problems, and that was shown there.
What did y'all think about his costume? I'm very curious, because the screening that I went to, there was someone dressed up as the Riddler with like a homemade like green suit, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I was like, well, hold on, I'm kind of a little freaked out. This is kind of
there's been past
think?
Batman screenings with that don't go well.
Yeah, exactly.
Dressed up. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. But yeah, I would have been kind of scared too, to be honest with you. It was great. I liked it a lot. I loved the Zodiac vibes to him, and I kind of disputed you, TJ, back when you said Saw. I was like, I don't really see it, but after seeing the movie, I definitely see where you're coming from there. I was a big fan of the costume. I think it's the ending, when they're in the garden. That was kind of poignant to me, because I had one of my good friends, his girlfriend at the time was at the like Route 66 festival or whatever it was in Las Vegas that got like shot up by someone in a hotel, like looking down at just like spraying bullets down at this like festival of people listening to country music. And his girlfriend like got shot in like the wrist and the shoulder. So I knew someone personally affected by that. And so I was like, damn, this guy like rallying these psychopaths to his cause, and like all dressing up like him to go just like wreak havoc on these innocent people, just like shooting bullets at them. That struck me, because I don't want to say personally affected by it, like the people I know, but I it hit home for me. And so that is something that is a very possible thing that has happened before. The odds that it happens again, I mean,
that was one of the things with this movie, is it was the most realistic feeling Batman movie.
Yeah.
And that was what made that third act so poignant, is it felt very real. Like, natural disaster closing in with, well, not all like literally a natural disaster, but like flooding.
Man-made natural disaster.
Even more realistic, honestly.
Yeah. And
true.
Like crazy terrorist guys dressed up in masks. Like it felt like, oh wow, this developed into, like, we talk about how grounded this movie is, but like that felt grounded as well, in a way that like, yeah, that doesn't feel like a comic book storyline. This feels like a actual Batman could happen in real life, and this could as well. We might as well just get, sorry, you go.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it, as opposed to, because I watched Nolan's trilogy like one night, two night, three night, and then the next night I saw the Batman. And while I love The Dark Knight Rises, the plot of like taking over the city and like infiltrating the construction companies to like lay cement, and then to like take over this entire city from government control. It's like a little bit far-fetched, but like you said, TJ, this is something that, I could definitely see a real scenario happening, and Batman having to be like, oh, I gotta, step in now.
The only one that didn't make sense to me, and like I'm happy you brought up The Dark Knight Rises, because The Dark Knight Rises is such a weird movie where there's so many epic, amazing parts of it, but there's also just like so many weird plot holes that are like, this just happened because you needed it to happen. There wasn't actually anything that led to this. But the Batman felt like the opposite, except for one part, and when the flooding was happening, it was obviously Madison Square Garden. Gotham Square Garden is Madison Square Garden. Gotham City is New York.
It is?
What?
Oh my God.
And so,
why would you blow my mind like this?
The reason I'm clarifying this like this is because Gotham City and Metropolis were basically like San Francisco and Oakland in the Snyderverse. And so
like across the bay from each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like they're taking this back to Gotham's origins, and it was supposed to be New York City. How is a city of 10 million people fitting everyone in Madison Square Garden, and where the hell was everybody else during this flood?
I do gotta say, when the Riddler is talking about his plan, he does mention if people are not there, they will flee for higher ground and they will be overcome by the flood eventually, because there's a very specific shot that shows like the water running through the city. So I think there is a potential for a plot hole here, but I do think that it wasn't necessarily about the city as a whole. It was more so about taking over the political hopeful of the city and demoralizing it through that, and then physically damaging the city as well. And then people are screwed. What are you gonna do? You know?
And see, I understood the like his purpose and goal, and I'm happy you brought up the point that he mentioned that like everyone else will flee for higher ground and like they'll get screwed eventually, because I guess I just sort of wanted to see some other people going to higher ground, because I was like, where is the rest of this population? Like, they filled up a stadium, but this is still a city of 5 to 10 million people. Where are the rest of them?
Yeah. Can I bring up 2 points real fast? Because you mentioned The Dark Knight Rises. I also watched The Dark Knight Rises the night before going to see the Batman, so I could do a little comparison. I think the biggest juxtaposition between The Dark Knight Rises and the Batman is the natural feel of Gotham. In The Dark Knight Rises, we spend half of the movie in a tunnel with the police force like that. We don't necessarily spend it there, but that is where a lot of our people and a lot of our time sits and takes place at. And if they're not in the tunnel, they're in the buildings, basically not doing anything. What makes the Batman so fun compared to that, we are all over Gotham City. We are in diners, we are in clubs, we are in bars, we are in houses and apartments, we are in different places, and so we feel immersed in this city. I think that is one of the strongest beats of this movie. And then circling it back to Paul Dano, I just want to say Paul Dano, again, like he falls under the same guise of like a Robert Pattinson. He goes on this tear starting in 2012. He makes Looper, Prisoners, 12 Years a Slave, Love and Mercy, and then Swiss Army Man, all in the span of 4 years, all very different and all very incredible movies in their own right. He's been in TV for the last few years, but nothing to this scale. And then he takes on the Batman, and he has come out and said, I haven't been able to sleep for days at a time because I have been so committed to the Riddler and my mind has gone to some really dark places. I commend him, and it is sad, but it is also incredibly enjoyable to see people finally say like, oh, Paul Dano's a pretty good actor. It's like, yeah, he's been a very good actor for 8 years, but now that he's in a big piece of IP, which, is an entirely different conversation about how we view actors and IP and whatnot. I think it's very good for him. And I really, really hope this isn't the last that we've seen of him. It doesn't look like it, but who knows?
I like what they're doing, that they seem to be attempting to build a type of a rogue gallery and give us the opportunity to see them in the future. And that's something the MCU has struggled, like I think done poorly, is they just keep killing off villains. And there's great people like, for example, Killmonger, that we'd love a possibility to see of in the future. Now they're opening things up with the multiverse, stuff like that, so maybe we'll get to see it. But yeah, that's another time, another place. While you bring up the Paul Dano getting into a dark place, it feels like a good time to bring up both are Batman primer, even if you've already seen the episode with Dr. Travis Langley, psychologist, wrote the Batman in Psychology. We talk a lot about how actors have to get into dark places for that. And then also check out our interview with Nick Keegan, who plays the Joker, Marcus Jett, on Batwoman, and how he talked about what he did to work on his mental health to counteract getting into those dark places for a character. We're talking about the Riddler. We're talking about the end of the movie anyways. We might as well just dive right into not the the semi post credit sheet part, but the monologue that we've touched so much on. It's later in the rundown, but we might as well just get to it now because everyone I've talked to has had a different view on this. And there's a few people that I had the same one that I did, and that made me feel good because these are people that I guess, I don't know, it's more of just confirmation bias than anything else. But
Validation,
yeah. Did Riddler know that Bruce Wayne was the Batman? So they were obviously trying, now, when setting this up during his monologue, and even in the trailer, they were obviously trying to make it look like the Riddler knew Bruce Wayne was Batman. It clearly looked as though Batman thought the Riddler knew Bruce Wayne was Batman. Now, exiting the theater, I took that as we were supposed to think Riddler knew. Bruce thought Riddler knew. The whole movie was through the lens of Bruce's mind. We're getting him monologuing through the whole thing and journaling and talking. And so I took that as he thought that, so we were supposed to think it too. And then he realized when he said Bruce Wayne was the only one we missed. That's when he realized, oh shit, he doesn't actually know. He's just obsessing about Bruce Wayne because he didn't like my dad. That's how I took it. My fiance took it as, no, he knew the whole time. He just decided he was going to keep playing with him and put that in his back pocket a little bit. That's why they panned to the camera. Because,
yes, Garrett.
That's why they panned to the camera, because it was, I know, you know, I'm not going to let them know yet. I'm keeping this. That's how she took it. And so I was pretty confident that it was my opinion and not hers. And then I started diving into some group chats. And then all of a sudden, everybody was conflicted theirs as well. It was basically split 50-50 on what people thought. I want both of your takes. Garrett, you're shaking your head pretty hard. What do you think?
No, Ethan's combating me. I want Ethan
I'm not
first.
doing it. I'm just sitting here, dude. I'm just sitting and listening and just prepping my argument. That's
I don't know. Well, you better be done prepping because you're going first, buddy.
Okay, here's the thing. Isn't that what is so phenomenal, A, about this movie, and B, about movies in general, that can have two sides of the coin? This is incredible. We don't know. We are unsure. And I think that is the genius of Matt Reeves here, is that it is ambiguous to some extent about what the Riddler actually knew and what Bruce Wayne actually knew. And it is a wonderful storytelling device. Now I can see how comic book movie fans and people that go to the movies, they want to be spoon-fed more things. And I think that is one of the problems with movies in our current culture, is too much spoon-feeding. But it could be that could be the thing that sets someone off to be like, wow, this is a bad movie because I don't get it, or because not necessarily because I don't get it, but because it's unclear, which is a very fascinating point in and of itself. I initially thought, okay, he definitely knew it was Bruce Wayne. There's no question about it. Let's just keep moving on. But the way and I'm going to go see it a second time to confirm, but the way that he says Bruce Wayne, he lingers, he stays on it. He's testing Bruce to see what kind of reaction he will have. I took it as this entire movie was told through Batman's lenses. The Riddler was solving his own problems, his own riddles. Yes, he was making the riddles and he was doing this, but maybe he was doing so to confirm a suspicion that he had, to try to find out who Bruce Wayne really is to the city, who Batman really is to the city. And yes, it seems like he was more focused on Thomas Wayne, but maybe that's part of the riddle. Maybe that's enough to set Bruce off to say, to give the look and say I might be trapped in a corner here. I might be put in a cage like a rat. I don't know. I think that's what's so good about it, is it's ambiguous, but my answer is I don't know.
That is basically to a T how Ava described it, and you articulated it perfectly. And like, I couldn't remember how she did it exactly. And that was perfect. So I'm so happy that you shared the opinion on that, except where hers was slightly different was that she basically figured it was like a MJ with Peter type situation of like, she was pretty sure. And that was, and he was like 90% sure. And the Bruce Wayne, that was exactly it. That was the test to try and get him to screw up and for him to confirm it. But he didn't know for sure, but he thought. What do you think, Garrett?
Wait, Garrett, can I say one more quick fleeting thought? I'm so sorry.
Of course.
I think that, did I think I just lost my thought. It was so fleeting. It was so important.
No.
Oh, okay. Isn't this so articulate of understanding the core value of both of these characters, of both Batman and the Riddler? They are both traumatized. They are both so apprehensive of somebody knowing their true identity. That is what we are getting at here, down to its core, is that the Riddler doesn't really want people to know his true identity because it's not him. Batman is Bruce Wayne. That is his more comfortable identity. And both of them are dealing with the traumas of what that identity crossover looks like. And both are afraid to give up that information, but both want to test the waters of what that information looks like. So I think they're very much in the same vein in this particular scene and monologue. That was my fleeting thought. Thank you very much. Go ahead,
foils in that sense. I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely initially thought he knows, which is why I was like surprised that Bruce Wayne wasn't his last victim, right? There like was more clues after that, or the order of it was like, he would have been last. He left like a fireproof envelope at that scene, assuming that the Batman would show up to that crime scene like all the other ones to read that message. So no, I don't think he knew. And then at the end, when he's talking about, we only missed one, and you're my accomplice, we're here together. Like, I don't think he can have this deep hatred for Bruce and this idolization of Batman on the other hand, Yeah,
I think it all roots back to this childish motive that the Riddler has at the end of the day. When he does freak out and he does say it wasn't supposed to go like this, we were supposed to watch this happen together. I don't know if he's capable of comprehending that Bruce Wayne can be Batman. I don't know if that ever truly crosses his mind as a true reality. I think the child that he has, or the trauma that he has as a child with the Wayne Foundation and the Wayne Orphanage, are what encourage him to go down this path and end up sending that envelope to Alfred and the Wayne residence, not in hopes to get the Batman before the Batman shows up, but in hopes of just alleviating a lot of his childhood trauma. And it just so happens that it's also the Batman.
And what I do hope, I'm on the side of Garrett. Like, I think he didn't know, but I hope we don't find out. Like, I hope this isn't something that's like Matt Reeves confirms it after the fact, or Paul Dano confirms it after the fact. Like, I hope, if the intent was mystery and there wasn't something we like just missed or something like that, then I hope it remains that way.
Well, here's the thing. How long are we going to have this Batman, right? How many other villains are we going to get? Are we really chucking him in this is year 3, by the way. Everyone says year 2, but this is year 3. He says, I've had the mask on for 2 years. I've already done this for 2 years. He doesn't say I'm in my 3rd year, but he's in his 3rd year. So we really starting out this Batman iteration with his first villain finding out his identity?
No.
Like, no. Come on, I think no.
Matt Reeves is too smart for that. I think Matt Reeves was the perfect selection for this project because of that. 100%. Because of that reason, I don't foresee Matt Reeves coming out and being like, here's all the answers you need to know for the Batman that you didn't understand. I think the marketing campaign has been on point for this. I think
one of the best.
Yeah, they've got the right team. I think they are going for a Zodiac type style. We've had ciphers all throughout the movie. If anything, make it a marketing ploy. To put out some websites. Like I know El Rata Alata, the website is now updated to have new riddles post movie that take you down a different route. And I think that is what is so fascinating. Again, it's going to age like a fine wine. If you keep the mystery about a film like this and you don't give people exactly what they are wanting, yes, it is divisive, but yes, it stays in the conversation and people will enjoy it more and more and more because they're open to conversation about interpretations. That's something comic book movies are missing. That is something the Infinity Wars and the No Way Homes are missing at the end of the day, is interpretations of what it could be or what it could mean in a mystery setting.
And while we're talking about the Waynes and Riddler and his disdain for them, there was a lot of Court of Owls vibes to this, and in the sense that, for those who don't know what the Court of Owls is, it was a Batman story where there was essentially a deep conspiracy that behind all of Gotham's crimes was essentially a Gotham Illuminati, and the Waynes were a part of it. This gave a bit of those vibes. And do we think the Court of Owls is something that could be revisited and continued for in the future, or that this was just touched upon and that was this version of that?
I don't know.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I don't know, because there was a lot of speculation coming into this movie about Court of Owls and how it was going to play out. And in the trailer, those guys with the white, face paint with the black eyes, who he fights kind of towards the beginning of the movie, some people were like, is that like a precursor to the masks, or what have you? So I'm not sure if this is his off-handed homage to the Court of Owls, or if there's an actual plan for a deeper rooted corruption than what we've already seen play out in the future. I think only time will tell.
There is a wonderful 9-minute Vanity Fair video that came out yesterday about this cast going through fan theories and looking at fan questions and fan theories. One of them does deal with the Court of Owls, and what is so interesting is,
I saw you share this on Twitter.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. What is so interesting is that, it's the press tour, so take it with a grain of salt if you will. But the reaction that Paul Dano has to this person saying oh, is this a Court of Owls precursor? Paul Dano's like, yo, Court of Owls is sick. We should do that. And everybody's like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And then they move on, and it's like, yeah, okay, so you're definitely interested in Court of Owls. I don't know a whole lot of Court of Owls, minus what New Rockstars has taught me. Shout out, Eric Voss for just filling my mind with amazing theories. But I think it's very fascinating, if you want to look at this as a trilogy plus some spinoffs, to see the minimal, even less than minimal nods to Court of Owls in this movie. Can you do a Court of Owls in the next 2 movies? Do you set up this trilogy to lead into the future? Is this not a closed circuit trilogy, if that's something that you're trying to tackle? Are you doing a hard reset on your universe? Is the Court of Owls just going to be a 10-year process to get down to that road? What does this look like for Warner Brothers and for DC? We don't know. I think Court of Owls is the way to go. And I think not introducing them in this movie is actually a very good thing, because you don't segment out people that don't necessarily know Court of Owls. People that are going to go spend $20 on an IMAX ticket this weekend and lend a hand in the $150 million domestic box office money don't know Court of Owls, most likely. They are not people that are fluent in that. And if they focus too much on that storyline, that you lose some people, you lose a lot of interest. That talk of the town goes away, I think. So I think it was a smart choice, but I would love to see them go down a darker, more mysterious route with that subject matter.
Yeah, it was teased, and it could definitely, the door wasn't closed, and it was open for, it could have been that, but we could also see more of that in the future. 2 of the cast members that were really one, because we've talked a lot about Paul Dano and the Riddler, but another one that really stood out for me was Edgar Wright as
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright, sorry.
God,
not
if we
Edgar
got
Wright.
if we got Edgar Wright in this movie, crazy.
Wow.
That would
Jeffrey
be
Wright,
crazy.
sorry. As Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. He was fantastic. I loved their chemistry together. It provided a lot of comedic relief that without telling jokes.
Yeah.
And it was great. I thought he provided a fantastic Jim Gordon, and I'm excited to see what he does in the future. Who else stood out for you among the cast members of like, wow, they crushed it?
Ethan, go ahead.
I think you're right about Jeffrey Wright. I think he's the perfect James Gordon. The relationship that he has with the Batman is incredible. It's dark and it's really distanced, but it's also very intimate. Like, he knows the Batman more than others know the Batman, especially one very particular scene. A cop asked, like, are you sure that he should be in here? Like, this is a live action crime scene. You're messing with evidence. And they both like look at each other, and Gordon's like, he's wearing gloves. And it's like, yeah, duh. Like, he's wearing gloves. Like, an incredible comedic relief, but also very poignant about they can look at each other and they can know where they both stand with each other, which I think is something wonderful. Quick shout out to John Turturro as Falcone. I think was really quite good and won't get the recognition that he deserves. I've got to go with Colin Farrell, though. And not only for the physical transformation, you look at that, you tell me that's Colin Farrell, you can't freaking do it. It cannot be done.
No, I tried so hard to find it.
Insane. And I don't want to be that guy. It's March 3rd, and I don't want to come off as that guy. But look, costume design and makeup, that's the category at the Oscars. Just going to say that. And I think there's one particular scene that he shines so brightly is when Gordon and the Batman capture him, and they kind of tie him up and they go through this riddle with him. And it's all about speaking Spanish, and he's just riffing one-liners and just nailing it to him. And then at the very end, we get this like such a nice nod to him being a penguin. He kind of like waddles and is like, oh, you're going to keep me here forever? Like, you're going to come back to me? That particular monologue in that scene doesn't get carried as well without Colin Farrell, I don't think. And he, regardless if people are going to say it or not, he's a crux of this movie. Without him, you don't feel ingrained in the mob. You don't feel the ground level grit and dirtiness that you feel in this movie, because he is represented so well and he's so crucial to a lot of the moving parts of this movie. That scene in particular displays it incredibly well. I loved him in this movie. Ensemble cast is ridiculous. Like, I mean, I think that's just kind of like where we're at.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah,
What do you think,
basically, Ethan said a lot of really great things right there. So I'll try to follow it up kind of succinctly. My favorite aspect of the relationship between Batman and Jim Gordon is his like, man, and like, bro, and like, dude, like he talks to him just like so casually. It's hilarious. Like, man, you can't be doing that. Or like, man,
he's like, we gotta go.
We gotta go, dude. Like, he's so casual with him, and I really love that. And I love that he's willing to, like, he knows this is a good person. He's willing to risk his career on it to give Batman a key and let him punch him in the face and escape the police station. I love that scene.
That scene was awesome.
That's gonna be an iconic Batman scene for like ever now, I think.
Can I say one thing about that scene?
Go for it.
Again, super important when it comes to the context of street level Gotham. Batman is running on his feet from police officers, and he then goes to the top of the building. Yes, he uses gadgets to get there. It is a consistent juxtaposition between the Batman and Bruce Wayne. But
the gadget use was perfect.
I love the gadget use. I thought it came in so importantly in every part. He does his like flying bat suit that he does, and then he mucks it up and he hits a bridge and he falls. That scene
very hard.
Oh yeah, like decimates, and that scene perfectly encapsulates the ground level Bruce Wayne and Batman that we are getting in this movie. People are going to be like, I don't, why? Like, what happened? What's so important? But him running through a police station on his feet means so much more than like him running away. right? Like I just think it's important to note that.
And this leads us right almost into, like, we touched on a lot of my potential qualms about the movie, and so I want to segue into that closely. But before we do, Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman was absolutely fantastic. My fiance brought up an interesting point after we watched this movie, and she got like similar vibes to you, Garrett, in terms of like Batman's creepiness a little bit, just in terms of like it almost felt like two wrongs made a right with them. Like, he's watching her when she doesn't know, and it's weird, and he's like grabbing her and it feels like a little bit uncomfortable, but she's kissing him after he's like passed out and when he's not expecting it, and it's like, both of you should not be doing these things. But it also just felt so right between them. Like the chemistry, there was so much unsaid dynamic between them, and it was fantastic. Zoe Kravitz did a phenomenal job in all aspects of the role.
I mean, best Catwoman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We can all agree. Best Penguin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colin Farrell was incredible, and the Iceberg Lounge, love having that. We talked about with Dr. Travis Langley about that in our primer, about how that's never been featured on live action before, besides Gotham, right, in the show. So that's a really cool aspect of Gotham to throw in there, and to see Penguin start at the bottom, and eventually we're now seeing his rise, or we're going to be following his rise to, the top of the mob, and where we know him from traditionally from the comics and whatnot. So
and something with Farrell's Penguin being the best one we've seen too is this isn't the best comparison, and sorry for going sports ball on you here, Ethan, but just because the Penguin isn't the MJ of villains or anything like that, but like when Kobe Bryant was amazing, and he patterned so much of his game after Michael Jordan, and that was one of the reasons why he was so great. I saw so much of Danny DeVito's Penguin in Colin Farrell with his accent and stuff like that. It was fantastic how much he took like parts of what Danny DeVito did great, and then he made the character his own and brand new, and I thought that was fantastic. But I want to get into my qualms, because we've talked a little bit about them, and one of them is because as we talked about the Penguin, and that scene where he's talking about the El Rata, and then he's talking about the Spanish of the riddle. Was everyone else's minds not going? Nobody else is freaking thinking Penguin. The pigeon with wings is obvious, or a rat with wings is obviously a bat, not a penguin.
I think that particular riddle was stretched a little long, but I think it could be that way because
and also
wrote it
was
Spanish.
Also good conversation amongst teammates. I was understanding what was going on.
Thoughts and processes to that. No point did I think penguin. At no point was I like, yeah, that's a penguin. No, I was like, that's a bat, bro. That's definitely a bat.
100%. Yeah.
And so that was one of my qualms. Is this was a phenomenal detective movie. That's how it was marketed. That's what it was, and it was great. But like, Bruce Wayne Batman wasn't really a good detective.
See, that's Ethan and I saw it on the same night. You saw it the night after, TJ, and we were able to DM a little bit about it after. And
oh yeah, dude, we were going back and forth hard.
We were. We had a great chat that night. But I said that exact same thing. Is for how much of a detective story this was supposed to be, there was some points in time when I thought to myself, this dude's not really being that great of a detective.
So I read your conversation as well, and so
I sent him a picture, because when he said that, I was like, dude, I said the exact same thing to Ethan last night.
And so I actually don't view it as like a movie qualm, because like I said, I'm viewing this similar to Spider-Man Homecoming. Is we're seeing Batman still constantly being clouded by his emotions. He is so emotional throughout all of this, and because of that, I'm willing to take it as he's going to improve and he's going to grow as he realized, like, I need to become something else. I got big Arrow vibes at the end when I thought he was going to say, I need to become someone else, something. else after he saw the Riddler guy say I'm vengeance, and he realized like, ooh, maybe I've been doing things the wrong way. And so I do think that'll improve and come. And the one riddle I thought he was fantastic with and I loved was the thumb drive thing. The thumb drive thing was so cool. And so I don't view it as a movie qualm, just a bit of a Batman qualm of like, bro, you have to stop believing everything everyone is telling you. If Carmine Falcone is telling you something, he probably has an ulterior motive. Take it with a bit of a grain of salt. Don't believe it 100% word for word.
Can't you make a contradictory argument though and say that what makes this portrayal of the Batman so fascinating, again, it's like back to the scene that I mentioned earlier, is his constant push and pull. How much do I rely on gadgets and Batman? How much do I use the mind of Bruce Wayne? Because that was a consistent theme and talking point, especially in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, that never saw the light of day. Like The Dark Knight Rises, we get an entire monologue from Alfred saying like, the city is better with your mind. The city is better with you, not your body. And then he's like, fuck that. Like, I'm just going to go be Batman, which is like a massive issue with that film. I think I personally like this about the movie because he doesn't know really how to be a very good detective because he's relying on his contact lens that can see everything and facial ID people. And like,
which I loved, by the way,
was so cool.
It was the closest thing to detective vision we're ever going to get. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these things are just a constant push and pull of how mature is Bruce Wayne? How mature is this rendition of the Batman? And his ability to be a detective is flawed. And I think that is important to the storyline, because if he was a good detective, sure, we might have gotten a shorter movie, which might have been better, but sure, it's not as enthralling. He doesn't fall into the same traps per se of bringing the rat to the light and finally understanding on that last clue and that last riddle. He might solve it a lot sooner, which doesn't give us a whole lot of investment to his mature content and like his mature spirit, I guess, like going forward. If you know what I'm trying to say. I think the biggest issue I had with this movie, we got like 4 endings. What was this? What was this about?
Yeah.
Did nobody else feel the same way? Because I was like, very similar to Euphoria. I don't know if anybody's seen the Euphoria finale. Elliot sings a song for like 4 minutes, and he just like constantly is like, I'm just gonna another verse, and you're like, can we just can it?
Complete the song now?
Yeah, can we just like be done? I did think the ending was important with the Bat and the Cat kind of going their separate ways, and I think having that penultimate song and score at the very end was incredibly moving and very powerful in terms of the entire theme of the film. But like, again, that Riddler Joker Arkham scene, post-credit that stuff. Like his monologue about like who he is, there's some serious pacing issues in the third act. That's for sure.
See, I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay because I felt like they tied up the themes that they needed to tie up, and what they left loose ends open, and it took a while, but that was the purpose of leaving loose ends so that the Riddler's still alive and he just met the Joker. And Bat and the Cat, they're on good terms, but they're going their separate ways. She's probably not going to show up, but she could show up at any point. And it's leaving that in our minds. And so I didn't mind that. But I agree with what you said, Ethan. And I guess this was why it's not a movie qualm for me, of just why my expectations got a bit in the way of the Dark Knight's trilogy didn't dive into the mind of Bruce Wayne and show his detective skills as much. And so with this being a detective movie, I expected to see his detective prowess when what I saw was him doing a lot of trial and error with it. And yes, Spider-Man Homecoming, like, he's going to grow and get better at it. But with the detective being on the focus, I expected his skills to be on the detective, whereas I saw him falter a lot there. But where he really excelled was some of the best live action Batman stuff we've ever seen. His action was incredible. Yeah, it was 100%. absolutely amazing.
The sound editing for this movie is incredible. People are not going to talk about it because there's so much else to talk about. But when you think about, especially that first fighting scene, the sounds that you get with the punches, the crescendos and silent notes that you get with Zoe Kravitz being in the club and then back to the Batman at his Batcave and then back in the club. A lot of these sound editing elements make this movie that much more powerful.
Yeah, you could hear the non-existent spurs on his boots multiple times when he was walking.
Yeah,
that was so cool. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
In terms of the detective stuff, though, what I did appreciate is that the cinematography really focused on showing us his mind, and they really zoomed in on the thumb being cut off. And I didn't understand it until it was a thumb drive. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. He knew that the whole time. And there's other aspects where he would focus in on the boots, and that's how he would tie Selena Kyle to someone else. And nothing had to be said, but because he focused in on the boots, we were able to see it and understand it. And I thought that was just absolutely fantastic. Because we're running low on time, I want to just touch on my last qualm that I had, because it relates to the cast and it relates to one of the few negatives I had about the movie. And that was Andy Serkis as Alfred. And that was not because Andy Serkis did anything wrong, but I wanted more. I felt a little bit like he was wasted. And I don't think he's going to be wasted, because he's still alive and we're going to see a lot more than him. Andy Serkis is still a young Alfred, and so that's going to be all good to go. But I was really hoping we would get some Gotham-esque younger Alfred. Someone was going to break into the Wayne Manor and he was going to smack him around with their cane. I thought Andy Serkis was amazing. And in a 3-hour movie, I wanted a little bit more of him. That's fair.
I think after his monologue with Bruce in the hospital, he disappears. And that is I see why it happens, because we have so much else to focus on. But if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, like, is Alfred okay? Like, is he still in the hospital? Like, did he make it? Is Bruce checking up on him? How is that storyline progressing forward? We'll definitely see him in future projects regarding the Batman. But yeah, I could see that definitely as an issue. I don't think he lent as much to the storyline as he potentially could have.
And that dynamic was one of my favorite parts too, because we just see Bruce, as he's being emotional, just constantly being a dick to Alfred and not appreciating him for his worth and what he's done for him his whole life and what he's still doing for him. And then when he finally gets that appreciation, he finally gets that understanding that my emotional connection to these people, they make me stronger. They don't make me weaker. And as soon as we get that, like you said, we don't see him anymore.
I think that he gave Thomas Wayne a little bit too much credit.
I agree.
I think honestly, bro, you know who Carmine Falcone is. Mm-hmm. You're running for mayor. The possibility there is high that this dude is just gonna murk the guy that you sent him to go talk to. You have to know that, or you're just dumb and you're not dumb. Or am I supposed to think that you're dumb? Because I don't think that's what the movie is trying to tell me to think, but you got to know that's going to be a possibility. And so, I'm going to hold that against you, dude. Like, that's kind of shitty.
I agree. You can't just go la 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 la.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna go to the cops now. I didn't expect him to murder him, but you should have expected him to murder him. And then my other I'll go back to the little glider suit.
Oh, I'm happy you did bring that up, because that was another one of mine.
I don't like the glider suit, man. Give my guy a cape, bro.
That CGI was not excellent. It was not bad. It was not good.
It looks so dumb. And just give him a cape, man.
I loved what Ethan said with I like that he crashed at the end. That adds to the groundedness, and he's still learning. But
he could have had a cape and crashed.
The squirrel suit was realistic. It's it added to everything in this movie was hey, that could happen. And that was part of this. But it looked so stupid.
Give my guy a cape, man. Come on. Don't give him a
He's
squirrel
Batman,
suit.
not Squirrel Man.
Yeah, come on. That's gotta be there's no way we're gonna have 10-year down the line Batman who's got a Robin with him and they're both just squirrel suiting through the city. No shot, man. Give me a cape.
That better be he's still at his beginning and he hasn't adapted a good flying through the town suit yet.
Give me a damn cape. Shall we talk about our post credit scene?
Yeah, I think it's time.
Do it.
What did we think of Barry Keegan's Joker? What did you think of the addition to the film? So like, actually, we don't even have to cover that because we've talked about how the two of you think it might have been better as a post-credit scene. I didn't mind that it was attached in. I like the concept of post-credit scenes that, yeah, they're fun and they exist to make people say through the credits and read these names. And I think that's fantastic. But I understand that they maybe didn't want to just be like, Marvel kind of coined that and they didn't want to be doing the same thing. And so they switched it up. And it's no secret that there's been screenings, like 2 separate films have existed, one with this character in it, one without.
Yeah.
And they've screen tested both and people liked the one with him in it better. And I'm happy they did it because yes, I hope they don't just dive into a full-on Joker sequel next, but because I just think that would be too similar to Dark Knight. But the Joker is part of Batman. It's tough to do Batman without having Joker involved in some capacity. So I'm happy they had him in there. What did you think of hearing his voice, seeing a small portion of his face, and getting Barry Keegan as Joker? Ethan, I'll start with you.
Big Barry Keegan stan. Go watch The Green Knight if you haven't seen it. He's phenomenal in The Green Knight, even though he's in that movie for like 3 minutes. I like his introduction a lot. I think I'm very open-minded when it comes to Joker. We had so many renditions, and the Heath Ledger conversation is warranted, but has been done and done and done. And I liked seeing the brief glimpse of his face. I think it looks really good. I think it looks really dark and demented. And I guess
it looked a lot like Cameron Monaghan's in Gotham.
That's
it gave me like Arkham vibes.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But I think what works so well about this scene in particular is that he introduces himself to the Riddler with a riddle. He gets on the Riddler's level and says, let me talk to you in a language that you can understand. I'm not going to say, hi, I'm the Joker. Let's do crazy stuff. I'm going to give you a riddle, and I'm going to allude to us starting a relationship and becoming friends. And I think that is what is so really profound about the meeting of these two. I think, and I have faith and I have hope that Matt Reeves and team know how to tease out a storyline like this, know how to make it play for 3 more hours in a sequel in 3 years. And the conversation of like, we better get a sequel in 2 years, I think is a little ridiculous. I think what makes this so profound is Matt Reeves' ability to tell the story. And it takes as long as it takes to get where we need to go. I think people need to understand that. And I love the tease. I love the introduction. It worked really well for me. I just didn't like the placement necessarily. It tonally took me out of becoming reconnected with Selena Kyle and Batman for that big emotional finale.
I'll agree with that. Totally. And I hate to be that guy.
Stop it, Garrett. Don't be that guy. It's that simple.
I have to be that guy. I wasn't feeling it. All I heard was Barry Keegan. I heard Druig. Like I heard I like it. I couldn't separate it at all. And I wanted it. I need to be able to separate it. That's the Joker. I can't be thinking this real life. I can't be attaching this real life person so clearly to the Joker. You know, there needs to be. TJ, help me out. I know you feel the same way as I do.
Yeah, so I feel like a combination of the two, and I loved the writing. I loved
the writing was great. Yeah,
I loved his creepiness as he was doing it. I loved the actor, but I too heard Druig. Like I'm not even going to try and like compare to Heath Ledger or any other renditions. I'm so excited to just enjoy this and experience this for what he brings and for what it's new. But I just really heard the accent and Druig throughout the whole thing.
I here is where I have hope, because the Eternals post-credit scene, that CGI was abysmal. It was very, very, very bad. But they put it in the hopes that in the future, they know it's going to be better. They know that they will spend more time on it. I have hope that Barry Keegan is just sampling and saying like, hey, I'm the Joker. I don't really have the accent squared away quite yet, but we wanted to put this in the movie. But I got another 3 years to make it work. And I think that's going to be okay.
And the last thing too with it is I did like the laugh. When he was speaking, I heard Druig, but when he was laughing, I heard a cool new Joker laugh.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I'm not ready to, like, start a fire, like chuck it out the window. I'm willing to pump the brakes, wait till we see more to like fully. I'm just first glance wasn't immediately sold on just the voice thing. I just heard his voice, and that's really my only. I don't have any problems with how he played the character.
Everything other than the voice. And I actually think, I don't think it should have been post-credit scene. I think it should have been the very last scene of the movie.
Yeah,
I think they should have reversed.
There was no post-credit scene because I think
they should have reversed the Selena Batman and this thing.
I think the tone of the movie demanded us to have a big emotional connection to the Batman as the very final thing that we see. We need to understand how close and again how grounded we really are to Bruce Wayne Batman, and you don't get that same enjoyable savoring moment at the very end if you put this Joker scene in the end. So I get it. I think it can play both ways. But I do think it's interesting that they had a test screening with and without, and people liked with. Of course, we are the comic book movie culture that we are a part of now. We always want the next thing. We just sat through three hours of a Batman movie, and we want to know what's next. And I like that, and I commend that. But also, something I haven't mentioned, I won't go into length as we run out of time here, but the big pro of this movie, we breathe with every scene. We live in every single scene that we are in. People are going to say it slogs at moments, and it is a long movie. I'm not debating that fact. It does feel long, but it's because we live in these scenes and we are consistently part of Gotham and part of the thought process of what is going on for the Batman, which can work positively or negatively, depending on how invested you are in this 3-hour journey. So I think overall, the rendition and the take and the tone of this movie is perfect. I think it is so unique to what it is, and it accomplished exactly what it wanted to be.
Ethan's no stranger to having to talk fast. He's the host of the 15 Minutes of Marvel podcast. No, you're good. I'm plugging you here. He's the host of the 15 Minutes of Marvel podcast. You can find him on Twitter at 15 Minute Marvel. I know you got to get out of here right away. And the reason I bring up your ability to talk fast is because what I want before you go is give me your rating out of 10 and give me your pitch for the sequel. You're gonna have to tune in to the rest of the podcast because I'm gonna want you to hear my trilogy pitch, but I know you got to get out of here. So before you do, give me your rating out of 10, give me your sequel pitch, and then you can feel free to just bounce right out of here, and we're gonna keep on rolling.
Oh, dude, that's tough because I didn't come up with a sequel pitch, so you're really putting me on the spot in terms of what I can actually do that's personally creative instead of just being in an echo chamber. 15 Minutes of Marvel, go check it out. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday, wherever you can get your podcast covering the latest Marvel stuff. I also did a review of the Batman. I did a spoiler free. I have a spoiler filled coming out next week. And, you guys and I, we might be teaming up on a little Patreon action. We might be having a little Batman special coming out in a couple weeks. So be on the lookout for that. Appreciate you guys having me on the pod. I love doing this. Here is my sequel pitch now that I've finished vamping and bought myself a little bit of time.
That was impressive. That was very
impressive. Some more. Give us a rating out of 10.
Oh, yes. Rating out of 10. I got to go with a 9. I think right now it's sitting at a really high rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm talking like we've got a 96% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, it is early. Yes, thousands of reviews are going to be pouring in over the weekend, but it is damn high. I've got to go with a 9 out of 10. I love everything about it, and I've said it to death here on the pod, so I won't rehash it. The problems that I have are generic problems you get with a 3-hour film. You start hitting 160 and 170 minutes. That's just what's going to happen. You're just going to feel the length. You're going to feel that long runtime. Here's my pitch for the sequel now that I've vamped again. So I would like to stay in this same vein. I don't want to go Joker immediately. I want to see something else happen with the Riddler and the Joker either operating from inside Arkham Asylum. Again, like I'm not fluent in the comics, so I don't really know what is potentially like canon or what could happen or where this storyline might go. But I love the idea of getting another mystery focus, getting another detective solving clues around Gotham and being very grounded, I think is very important. This isn't the last time we've seen of the Penguin. I know we're getting a Penguin project, so I'd love to tie that into the sequel. Maybe that becomes a bigger part of what the movie is. But I think Joker pulling the strings to lead into a trilogy ending movie of setting up a Joker Batman kind of showdown, if you will, and leading into a Court of Owls, I think is the way to go. So just like repeat this movie, but add in some new elements. I think it's pretty much what my pitch is going to be, which is really lame, but that's exactly what I want.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ethan. We are always
thank you.
It's always the pleasure to have you on. We can't wait to join you on your pod in the future, and we'll definitely have you back here as well. Garrett.
Moon Knight,
baby.
We'll be talking some Moon Knight for sure.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me.
See you, bro.
Love you too. See you later, pal. Garrett, give me your rating out of 10 and pitch me your sequel. Or not even like you don't have to pitch me a sequel, but like tell me some things you'd like to see in it.
All right. So I'm gonna go 8 out of 10. Definitely curious to watch it again. I don't know if I'm gonna see it again in theaters. My back hurt, bro. Our theater had to have been 80 degrees. Like it was so hot. We got these. Did you get a Batman comic for the fan event?
I did, and then I forgot it there afterwards.
Well, thank God we had those because we were like fanning ourselves the whole time. Like I was legit sweating, and then I kept having to like shift in my seat because my back was hurting and the angle. Like I've never sat, and we went to a new theater for this, and I've never sat in like theater chairs that had this angle. Like I don't know, it just sucked and my back hurt. So I want to watch this movie again, but I want to watch it in the privacy of my home, laying in my bed, darkness with my girlfriend. And that's where I think I'm going to truly enjoy it. So I'm excited for it to come to streaming.
I agree completely. That's something that detracted a bit from my experience was my theater experience. And I said that in a tweet after the movie is I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I was watching it from home. And I think that's a bit how the pandemic has like impacted me, just being around that many people. Just it's tough to get into the movie. Yeah. And it started super shaky too, because I couldn't get into it. I think this was the case for everyone who went to the early IMAX screenings. There was no previews. Do you have previews? No. And so like there's a little cast introduction beforehand, but because of that, the movie started like right when the runtime was supposed to begin, whereas usually previews start right when the runtime is supposed to begin. And so like our theater was like max half too. Full at 7 o'clock. Like
ours was packed.
At 7 o'clock. Like, so I watched at 7 and at 7 it was half full tops. And by 7:20 it was full.
Damn. And so they missed a lot.
They missed a lot. And it was like, it was tough to stay into it because people were constantly coming in. And so like right as it started, right as it was beginning with Bruce's like opening monologue, or sorry, it wasn't Bruce's opening monologue. It was like the politician being watched by the Riddler. Somebody booted over my drink. And so there was just like pop everywhere, all over the ground and all over my feet. So I had to run out and grab a bunch of napkins, grab a new drink. And then like there was no people beside us at the beginning. And then like when they all came in, there was like, there was kids who were like putting their feet up on the seats.
Yeah, someone kept kicking the back of my chair like a lot, like 10 times throughout the movie.
Yeah, and so there's just like a lot of stuff like that, and then just on top of it's the pandemic and I'm not used to being around this many people, so that definitely impacted me as well.
Yeah, you could feel the length of the movie for sure,
big time. And I mean, while I'm talking anyways, I might as well get into my rating. I loved it. Small qualms, but they didn't take away from my enjoyment. There were things that I feel like could have made the movie better, but they weren't like, this was a flaw that makes me think it was bad. And so I'm going to split the difference between the two of you. For me, it was an 8.5 out of 10. What would you like to see in the sequel?
So some things that I won't lay out a full sequel trilogy plan, but I'll say some elements that I would like to see. going forward. I would like to see Hush. Are you familiar with Hush?
I'm not.
Hush is like an anti-Batman, essentially. I believe they were friends as kids, Bruce Wayne and what is his name? I can't remember his Thomas Elliot. Thomas Elliot is his name. They're friends as kids, and they're both orphans, I believe, and one becomes Batman and one becomes Hush. And so I think that would be a really cool aspect to see Robert Pattinson's Batman kind of go up against, and
have him be portrayed by Taylor Lautner.
Oh, imagine that would be crazy. That'd be so meta. No, I yeah. So I want to see Hush. I want to see a Robin, at some point, and I want to see a Barbara Gordon at some point. And I think that you could possibly do Killing Joke and have Joker kill Barbara. I think that would be crazy to see in live action. I think Matt Reeves would bring an inspired version of that to the film, to live action, excuse me. And I want to see Court of Owls. Yeah. So Hush, give me obviously Joker, Bat Family, Court of Owls.
So the biggest one for me is Robin. I want Robin. We didn't get it in the Nolan trilogy, and I'm good with that.
Well,
yeah,
we did kind of.
Yeah,
but
like just give him a name of one of the Robins instead. I would have liked that better, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
On the note of Robin, I thought it was like there were too many teases of foreshadowing in this movie for us to not get Robin.
Right.
And for like just the constant eye contact stuff and helping out with the mayor's kid. And like maybe they're going to do something different, and maybe this mayor's kid is going to end up being Robin. I don't know. But if they do one of the original iterations, I feel like Dick Grayson, I hope, would be the one. But I also think it would be very cool if before I get to that, I think it is very cool that the kid with the half clown face paint at the beginning that he was helping, that was Tim Drake from Titans. That's the same actor who plays Tim Drake in Titans. And so I thought that was cool. I thought that was kind of a cool meta nod of how he was like, how much he was helping out that kid of all of them, and that kid was a Robin in a different show.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool. But the other things I'd like to see from it is I kind of just want to see the sequel being Batman's Rogue Gallery increased. I don't want the sequel to be a Joker movie yet. I want to get Robin in it. And I want basically just to see like Batman's got some better gadgets now. His Batmobile has gotten better. His detective skills have gotten better. We're seeing him fully. He's bringing in a Robin. He's not 8 years old. Maybe this Robin's 16 years old. He's still a kid, but like he's a capable fighter.
Right.
Maybe it's Tanner Buchanan from Cobra Kai. I think that would be pretty cool. But anyways, I just fan cast that in my head right now, and I got excited about that. I actually think I'm thinking he'd actually be a better Jason Todd now that I think about it.
I'd love to see Jason Todd too in live action. Yeah, I mean,
something
Red
else.
Hood, that's crazy.
So I want to see his Rogue Gallery improve. I don't want to see the second Batman introducing us to a Robin. I want to see the second Batman, like the sequel, begin with Robin already there. And the reason I say that, yeah. And the reason I say that is because I also want, like, I think in the sequel, they can get a little more comic booky now. There's been talks about them doing Mr. Freeze. And so I think to go along with that, I think we could see like Batman getting a bit more comic booky stuff. Like I said, the Batmobile improve and more gadgets, stuff like that. I'd like to see Robin already there. Because by the end of the movie, I'd like to already see Robin thinking like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. to set up the possibility for like if down the line he can already be Nightwing, because the mayor, what was her first name? Real was her last name, right?
Bella Real.
Bella Real. She was an original character for this show. She was brand new. I think it would be cool if Bella Real was actually Talia al Ghul, and we could get a Damian Wayne in the future via that. I think that would be super cool. But we'll see how long this universe goes on for. If it's a trilogy, I don't know if there's quite enough time for that.
Well, to be honest with you, it seems like they have big plans for it. If they're doing, I think they have 2 spinoffs announced already for HBO Max.
Yeah, they're talking Arkham spinoff. They're talking Penguin spinoff.
Yeah.
Already talking about the sequel. So it sounds like they're going to be doing this for a long time. And if they do, I'd love to see the full Robin set. Like, I'd love to just see basically us get all of it. And we don't have to
give us the most complete live action story that you can. Give us the universe. Give us, you've been making these movies for 40 years, let them stick them together for like a consistent period of time and give us it, flesh it all out,
And when you're done with all the Keaton stuff, you can either keep that. You have 2 options. You have Batman Beyond in the DCEU, or maybe Batgirl Beyond is how it could be looking.
That's cool too.
I would love to see Terry McGinnis, but I'm okay if like
Teresa McGinnis.
But if Barbara Gordon is Batgirl and she's like the Batman Beyond, she's the head, and Terry McGinnis is this like a sidekick or something like that, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, I don't care how it's done.
Yeah,
I honestly don't.
I'd love Keaton to be Old Man Bruce and get some Batman Beyond.
Yes, yes, we need that.
Yeah. And or if way down the line when Keaton's done and you want to redo Justice League stuff because it's time to revamp that, and Pattinson's finally ready to be a fully formed Batman 10 years from now, I think that would be super cool too. But anyways, for my trilogy, I want them to be doing Robin stuff, but I'd like the sequel to be Batman, us seeing Batman improve, him doing better detective stuff, him getting his gadgets better, and the rogue gallery increasing. Throw in Mr. Freeze, throw in whatever, as he's firing these people into Arkham, while there are small Joker tidbits throughout. All throughout, there are small Joker tidbits. And then in the trilogy, that's when Joker, in the third movie, that's when Joker is unleashed. That's when he is the main antagonist. And I really want to see Joker releasing all of the rogue gallery, Riddler and everyone we see in the second one.
Everyone he's been
from
locking
Arkham.
Up. Yeah.
Release them all. Give us a sweet Arkham hallway scene where he's just beating all of the hand-to-hand combatants, and then have the Riddler escape, have Joker escape, and the mind ones all get away, but all the physical ones be there, him going toe-to-toe with them in the hallway. I think that would be so cool. So that's kind of what I want to see out of the full trilogy.
Yeah, I like that. So do you think we'll get a Two-Face at any point? Because I feel like if we were going to get a Two-Face at any point, we would have seen a Harvey Dent in this corruption focused movie.
I feel like Two-Face will probably be one they go away from, just because that was just done and they already are bringing Joker back. I didn't see it. I saw some tweets talking about Bane Easter eggs. I didn't see Bane Easter eggs when I was viewing. You look on your face as you didn't either. So that'd be interesting to see, because I was going to say, I'd assume they avoid Bane and Two-Face.
I mean, it's interesting that they even had a clue that was in Spanish. So, I mean, that could technically be like
that's a good point.
Throwaway, Bane Easter egg. But I don't know. I think there's so many to choose from, that I think we can do. I think Ra's al Ghul is okay to do, to be honest with you, because the way that Nolan did it is very grounded, and I think that
and wasn't really the character.
No, it was a different character.
Yeah,
moonlighting as that character essentially. But you can give us a Lazarus Pit, you can give us a League of Shadows, You can give us
call it the League, call it the League of Assassins instead of the League of Shadows, and actually just do like a more comic book like true thing. And now
but if we want to make Bella Real like some kind of Talia al Ghul, that gives us a really cool chance to have a really fleshed out, League of Shadows, Ra's al Ghul, Lazarus Pit, all of that. But I agree. I don't think we need a Two-Face. I don't think we need a Bane necessarily, but there's a whole lot of villains to choose from. So deviate a little bit, and I think Matt Reeves probably has a plan for some dots outlined for the future. So I'll let him continue to do what he does best, and we'll see how it goes in the future. I've got faith. This is like I said, this is an 8 out of 10 for me. With all the things that we pointed out, that could be different, I still very much enjoyed the movie, and I'm eager to watch it again. So
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm eager to watch it again. I'm eager for the spin-offs and the sequels. That'll conclude our first reaction Batman review. We have some Elijah Boxhill at Optical Cinema has a spoiler-free review coming to agentsofandom.com later today. Either Garrett or I, maybe both, are going to be firing up a more in-depth review on the website as well later this week. Check out our Twitter account at Agents Fandom. We got a fun thing going, Marvel Madness. It's a bracket. We got teams going head to head. We drafted Avengers style teams to go up against each other. Pour one out for Ethan. His team took a round 1 loss. Pour one out for Garrett. His team took a tough one. 52% to 48%.
It was 51 to 49.
When it closed, it was 51
I believe 51 to 49 when it closed. And let me just say, this is a contest of who would win in a fight, not who you like the most. So you guys voted so poorly for me. So I'm going to need you guys to bring up the votes for my co-hosts and our producer, Ruben, because we got to have some representation in the finals. And y'all let me lose with my stacked team. The team that should have won it all lost in the first round. Just going to say that. So y'all better come strong for my boys, TJ and Ruben, in the next couple rounds.
So, I mean that. Okay, I don't even want to say what I was going to say now because you gave such nice support and chime there. But I feel like drafting. Here's what I'm thinking. What always in Saskatchewan where I live, or in Canada in general, we only in Canada in general, Canadian politics, we only have 2 parties who ever win. We got a right-wing one, we got a middle left one, and it's always between the 2 of them. And the furthest left one doesn't really ever come close. And it's not because even that the ideals the furthest left group supports don't have enough supporters, but their campaign is always focused on like, these parties are the worst, these parties are the worst, these parties are the worst. And they don't actually like promote and put forth their ideas. When you got Eliath and Surtur on your team, who are powerhouses, but lesser known powerhouses, you got to focus less on like, people, you're voting dumb, and more on like, this is Eliath, the time god dragon. Here are all his abilities. This is Surtur, a gigantic fire demon. These are his abilities.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I was just not focused on that, hoping that I was gonna have like Randy came in hard to back me up. I was hoping other people were gonna back me up because
I quote tweeted that like 4 different times.
Yeah, no, you backed me up. You backed me up for sure. But like, I lost so hard to the fan vote. Like, it's obvious. People saw Wanda, people saw Spider-Man, people saw Black Panther, and they fucking voted for that team. They didn't see the massive fire apocalypse demon who took down Hela and her wolf and the entire city of Asgard, as well as the massive multiversal dust cloud who has eaten timelines upon timelines of people. No, but Jan Rog of Captain Marvel and Black Panther. They
I
got
love
this.
that I
And
hear
Groot.
Ruben laughing
And
in the
Groot.
background.
And Groot. Because Groot is going to
Stop
bring...
sleeping on Groot.
Groot is going to bring the tools you need to take down the fire demon. Right? Right, people who voted?
This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Stop. Don't sleep on my guy Groot. Focus on the Goliath and Surtur promotion.
Also, Groot is not beating Cole Obsidian, bro. Let me just say that. Stop.
I don't know why you compared him to Hulk. Hulk didn't go toe to toe with Cole Obsidian. He was still afraid to come out from Thanos.
I mean, is Cole Obsidian essentially not Thanos' version of the Hulk?
Yeah, but he's not the Hulk. Hulk would rip Cole Obsidian around. Spider-Man was able to hold his little thing with his web. Groot could take him.
Bro, Groot cannot stop. You're capping hard on Groot. Groot, I love Groot. Huge fan of Groot. Groot is not taking down a member of the Black Order. None of them. A single one of them. Not any
all
of them.
So Nebula and Gamora were considered to be like above the Black Order for Thanos, or at least on par with. And I'd say Groot is the muscle of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd have Groot above Gamora, Nebula, Drax, all of the entire Guardians.
Bro, he's a tree. Are you tripping?
He's an immortal tree that can. Go replay go finish the Guardians game. So you can
set him on fire. Set him on fire. He's done. He's not OP. He's a tree, dude. He's a tree.
And then he doesn't regrow.
Okay, well, then he takes 20 more years until he's useful again. He's moody as a kid. Come on, you guys know that I got screwed with the fan vote.
The Surtur thing, like Surtur could eat Groot and then it's over. I was just like on the specific mono Cole Obsidian versus Groot. I'm taking Groot.
Also, I thought it was really funny how someone I believe it was Phil in the comments said something about, he was like, does Red Skull have the Tesseract? And then someone commented like, oh no, Infinity Stones weren't allowed. And he's like, oh, then it's GG's then. As if that matchup came down to Red Skull having the Tesseract. Really? That Red Skull could have not shown up to the fight.
Yeah.
And we would have been fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is.
Yeah, no, Phil's wilding out in all of the things. It's really funny.
I know.
He was talking about right now under Adam and Julia's matchup about how Iron Man would have the foresight to know what to do against the Great Protector, and but yeah, anyways, I got my matchup going right now.
This is what happens when we leave the fans to vote.
Vote for me right now. I'm going toe to toe with Screen Sisters. Ruben's matchup is coming tomorrow. That's at Agents Fandom on Twitter, and you can also find all of our stuff on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Agents of Fandom. You can find us there.
Yo, Vincent D'Onofrio quote tweeted our tweet.
He did,
telling people to vote for Team Adam. So people are fighting dirty. I swear to God, he did.
All right, we got to finish this up so I can catch up on Twitter because
we've missed a lot.
billion notifications right now. So we're gonna catch up and look at that. But yeah, vote for Team TJ because we don't have celebrity people vouching for our teams. We just have our hearts and our draft picks. If you're watching this on YouTube, like it, subscribe to the video, comment, help us out. Subscribe, give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, leave a nice review. This isn't our only episode coming today. Maybe we drop this one tomorrow. I'm not sure yet, but we are recording it today. Go to Netflix and see just see the popular shows. Go to Trending Now. Go to Top 10 in your country. You're going to see Raising Dion. It's a new show. What attached to it is Michael B. Jordan as an executive producer. The star is Josiah Young. The story is about a young boy who has superpowers and he develops them. And it's just a super heartfelt, cool story. It's family friendly. I recommend it to all ages. And we're sitting down with the star today, Josiah Young. We're hanging out with him from Raising Dion. It's going to be an absolute blast. So make sure you tune into that interview as well. That'll do it for today's episode. You know where to find us. Vote in Marvel Madness. Go watch the Batman in theaters. Peace out.